Fox 6, we're partnering with the Milwaukee Times to bring you Community Connection. It shines a light on the positives happening in and around the city.
As we near the third anniversary of the pandemic, we are learning more about the huge impact it's had on our mental health. But not all communities, namely communities of color, are open to actually getting mental health. Fox 6's Kim Murphy shares one man's story of hopelessness and healing.
So you quarantine in the beginning, that's when we were real strict with those things. And I thought everything was okay.
Psychologist R. Kwaku Smith works with athletes across the country, including here in Milwaukee. This picture from his time as team psychologist for the Bucks. Another shows him speaking with young people. But in November 2020, the helper for so many found he needed help.
And everything was virtual. So I would come in here, do my workday, but I found myself sitting on this chair right here, going to sleep from like 10 to 2. And I was like, oh, that's not healthy because it's the middle of the day. So I called in, I said, hey, something's not right.
It's early in the pandemic, before COVID-19 vaccines or antiviral meds, before the diagnosis of long COVID.
I'm feeling very fatigued, things are not right. And then it was just this explosive weight gain. And it wasn't just like COVID.
Multi-system inflammatory syndrome is a condition linked to COVID-19. It affects different parts of the body. In Smith's case, his hand and ankle became severely inflamed, leading to several surgeries, followed up with weeks of grueling physical therapy.
There was a cognitive fog, and specifically for what I do, that became the scariest part. So if anybody want to reach out, talk.
What is becoming clear, almost 3 years into the pandemic, is COVID's impact on mental health. Researchers are still learning how the virus changes the brain. Some post-COVID conditions include depression, stroke, anxiety, and memory disorders.
Everything that made me me was starting to deteriorate. And working with athletes, you want to stay in a way in which they respect you physically. My body wasn't looking like that, so it becomes a kind of scary feeling like, oh, what am I going to do? Is this the worst that it's going to get?
Smith says despite his training as a licensed mental health professional, he didn't readily see he was struggling with COVID depression.
Mental health has a stigma, and specifically when you're in this position, you say, I have all the answers, I got it together.
The most important thing he wants to share is seek help.
The first thing I did that was humbling was I went to my doctor.
And surround yourself with a solid support system.
It's important to have people who you love, people who you care about around you, who can help push you in ways in which you can't push yourself.
For things that you can do, doctors recommend exercise. It boosts the brain chemical serotonin. Start simple. Take a walk. Maintain a healthy diet. Get adequate sleep. Finally, set aside a few moments each day to meditate. Choose a quiet place to focus what you're doing. Be aware of your thoughts.
What am I going to do to get better mentally? What am I going to read? What am I going to watch? What am I not going to watch too much of? What am I going to do? Who am I going to be around?
Take a look at this picture from this Thanksgiving. Smith in a father-son football game. He says it's the first time since his illness he feels like himself.
Well, definitely to COVID. COVID was the 1-2 punch that made me realize the things that probably I wouldn't have seen without it because, like I said, we're conditioned to keep going, to keep moving.
And as he slowly gets back to doing what he loves, Smith reflects on the journey that got him here and what's next.
And one of the things my grandmother taught me was the best way to heal yourself is to give back to others.
In Milwaukee, Kim Murphy, Fox 6 News.
I love that message. Researchers say it's not clear how long it takes to move through COVID depression. I mean, everyone is different. If your depression doesn't get better, you may need to reach out to mental health or telehealth services that have expanded during the pandemic. Community Connection is a partnership of Fox 6 and the Milwaukee Times, and we look forward to bringing you more stories like this in the coming months.